Are we rolling? Okay. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Pete Gillies, former chief pilot at Western Helicopters, Rialto, California, sharing stories of some of the mistakes I've made in 41 years with the company. The purpose of this particular video is to explain a mistake I made that resulted in a realization that we have all been lied to, in a sense, by this fact not being commonly understood, known about. What happened? It's a routine autorotation recurrency flight for a very, very capable police pilot from the coastal zone. It's a Saturday. The wind is blowing from the north at Rialto. It's probably blowing 20 to 30 knots. It's the Santa Ana wind condition we have often during the wintertime. Severe, clear, but a very strong north wind. And we're doing touchdown autos. And those of you that do touchdowns or any kind of autos know if you have 30 knots of wind, you can come in and you just barely raise the nose and the wind stops your ground speed, and then you make a landing and you look like the best pilot in the world. So here we are with this police pilot, and he is having trouble with the wind. I'm having him initiate an auto to land on the numbers type thing of our north-south runway. He is entering the autos too soon and not compensating for the wind and coming up short all the time. Then I discovered that the real problem was he felt that if he wasn't going to make the runway or the run-up area, that he should cancel the auto. And my auto-rotation training says, if something's wrong, fix it, do the best you can. But he gave up too easily, and I could see I was making little progress in convincing him how to do this, even with demonstrations. So I made up my mind that before I turned him loose that day, we would go back out into the field area east of the airport and do some off-road touchdown autos. So it's the end of an hour session, and I pick a target for him, and he comes up way short, again, not having compensated for the wind. He was okay over the runway, but off the runway he wasn't. So I said the famous words, "Let me show you how to do this," Okay, I'm in the right seat, I've got full controls. We are now downwind with a 30 knot plus tailwind. I'm going to do a right 180 to a grassy area. But rather than me rolling the throttle off, I said to him, tell me when to roll the throttle off, so there's no cheating here. He's the pilot being trained. Tell me when to chop the throttle. I will do the 180 auto. Show you how this works. So, at the appropriate point, downwind with this rip-roaring tailwind, he says, now! And I chop the throttle to idle. Started the right-hand descending turn. And within the first 5 seconds, I knew something was wrong. Something was wrong. I didn't know what. The controls are responding. I'm making a right turn. I've got to complete a 180. We've probably got 500 feet of altitude above an area of short grass. It had been disked. But to me, I'd be able to get 0 ground speed with that kind of a headwind. So I wasn't worried about the terrain. But a third of the way around, I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what. 2/3 of the way around, my police pilot is starting to yell, oh no, because he knows we're going to die. He can see that this is not working and we're not turned around yet and we're descending and blah, 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 and I'm flying. He's yelling. I have the cyclic back in my chest. I've got pitch under my arm. I got pedal, and I'm trying to get turned into the wind. And the last 90 degrees, I didn't think we'd make it. Just as I ran out of everything, collective, everything, we touched down level facing north. But we've got about 20 or 30 knots of ground speed rumbling through this disk area. I knew my job. I remember thinking, Pete, your job is to keep this thing going straight until it stops. Okay, so it's slowing down. It's wiggling and bouncing and all. We're into the wind. It's going to work. I'm still collective up, cyclic, pedals, everything's working. And suddenly, a 10-inch berm created by a road grader, 10 inches high, berm cuts across in front of the helicopter. Immediately beyond it is the airport boundary fence, chain link fence, about 6 feet high, airport boundary. So we hit the berm. Both skids obviously hit the berm. One penetrated the berm, the other one went over the top of it. The one that penetrated the berm stopped the aircraft, and we did a flip. The aircraft stopped and went up, became airborne, landed on top of the fence, facing east. The rotor has stopped. Why doesn't it roll all the way over upside down? It's sitting on edge on the top of this 6-foot fence because 2 of the 5 blades were stuck into the ground, preventing the aircraft from rolling over. I'm on the high side. My police pilot is on the low side. The engine is not running. The engine has quit. I did not know that because we had a fleet of 6 500Cs, and when the factory decided Western helicopters should have 500Ds, they brought over a demonstrator. A demo pilot from Mesa was in the right seat, a couple of our guys in the back, and I'm in the left seat. And before I cranked the engine, he pulled the engine out circuit breaker, the last one down on the right side of the panel. And I questioned him, and he said, oh, well, this is what we do on demo flights because, you know, you're at idle, you go to full RPM, you get this engine out, beep, 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 and your prospective customer looks at you and says, what's that? They're all shook up because there's warning. You pull that breaker, nothing's blinking, there's no noise. It's a nice, quiet establishment to flight idle. So I began doing that because the factory was doing that on the demos, and I didn't see any problem with it. So when the engine quit during the right 180, there was no sound, no lights, no nothing. The generator light came on, but my left seater never said a word. He's just watching, and he's overloaded mentally anyway by the whole thing, and especially as he announces that we're going to die. We're halfway around the auto. Okay, what's going on here? What caused the problem? The first thing is my fault. Bob Spencer, our training center manager, had test flown that same helicopter a day before and had said that the throttle was not rigged properly, that it flamed out on him from the left seat during a throttle shop. He wrote that up in the maintenance log. I didn't look at the maintenance log that next morning. There was nothing in or on the maintenance logs, which we take with us, nothing indicating there'd been a fault. It should be a grounding fault, obviously, but that slipped through maintenance. I didn't check. It was written up, but I didn't check. I shouldn't have been flying the aircraft in the first place. Secondly, with the engine out low rotor warning system disabled, the way the factory was doing it, I didn't get any clue as I'm busy trying to rack this thing engineless around in a 180 auto in a strong wind. There was a third factor that came to light. This accident happened 1 week before the helicopter convention in Anaheim that year. It deeply troubled me that the whole autorotation felt different because the engine had quit. And here is George Bianchini. He looked at me and my wife, Pat, as we walked in, one of the first visitors in the convention that day, and he said, "Hi, looks like you have something on your mind." He introduced himself, and I did the same. I said, "George, I have a problem. I had a flameout during an auto rotation several days ago. The engine quit when it should have gone to idle, and the auto rotation was unrecognizable." And he looked down, and he wanted something to pound on, you could tell. He said, "Pete, one of the big secrets in our business comes with the idling turbine engine. Everyone thinks that when you chop your 500 to idle, that the engine no longer delivers any power. You see the needle split. There's the rotor needle, there's the engine into, they're split. So the engine is disconnected from the rotor system. What no one realizes, and we've been trying to tell customers the world over, is that the engine is still running. If you drag rotor RPM down by pulling pitch, you drag it down to the idling engine and you start pulling the two needles down together during a pitch pull. The engine in a 500 or a Jet Ranger will deliver to you up to 35 horsepower at maximum pitch pull. The idling engine doesn't want to be at idle. It doesn't want to be at low idle. It wants to be at normal idle. It's fighting you. It's contributing power. So your auto rotation was ruined by the fact that you didn't know there was a misrigged throttle. You didn't know that the engine at idle, free turbine engine, will deliver usable power. He said, for instance, take a UH-1, over 200 horsepower available. You take a Huey, chop the throttle and do a hover auto, full pitch, make a beautiful landing with an idling engine. The engine is delivering about 200 horsepower to your rotor system at full pitch, at idle. That's one of the best kept secrets in the business. With the type of engines that have a free turbine instead of a centrifugal clutch and so forth, yeah, the engine says, go ahead, drag the rotor down to me, I'll help. It looks like the pilot is double good, so skilled. Give credit to the engine. So when you see these demonstrations of aircraft landing on beautiful runways, the engine's not off, the engine's at idle. They're certainly not going to take the chance of flaming the engine out to demonstrate the auto rotation. The danger of an accident is too high. So when I realized all that, we educated our pilots and everybody else coming through for the advanced auto rotation course. MD made a change in the 500D flight manual to indicate this situation. And it is true for all free turbine helicopters that don't have some kind of a clutch between the engine and the rotor system. An example would be an Alouette 3 or a Llama. This is something that has discolored our training system in auto rotations. I got around this by starting to do flame-out autos. Now this is serious business. When you take the throttle and you flame the engine out, engine is quiet. No assistance being given to the airframe. Now look at your real auto rotation with no idling engine to smooth things out and cover your lack of skill and knowledge. So there were a number of things learned from this. First of all, don't disable the warning systems. Don't do that. That's dumb. Had I had the engine out warning circuit breaker pushed in, I would have found out early that the engine had gone offline and could have done something about it. But here's one final comment that relates to the MD-500 that is very quietly overlooked, unmentioned, or at least was during all the years we were a factory service center. In an MD-500, dual controls. Left seat throttle has a mechanical stop at idle. Left seat, pilot and command. chop it to idle. Mechanical stop is in the collective. From the left seat throttle to the right seat throttle is a series of rods and joints, and there is no mechanical stop on the right seat throttle. This means that if the aircraft is brand new and none of the linkage between the left seat and the right seat throttles, none of the linkage has any wear, measurable wear, that a throttle chop on either side will produce exactly the same idle. But the minute you start using dual controls for training purposes and throttle chops and all that, you start wearing the linkage. The right seat throttle does not have a mechanical stop. So when you're in the right seat, as a CFI, for instance, and you chop the right seat throttle, all wear between that throttle and the pilot's throttle, all that wear is taken up. And the fuel control needle goes beyond idle. It goes toward cutoff. It's all because of the wear between the two throttles. The left seat throttle chop, same thing on the fuel control. Right seat throttle goes farther if there's any wear. And our 500D had done hundreds of throttle chops from the right seat at that time. So the linkage was worn. The mechanics don't check it. It wasn't in the 100-hour inspections. There was no mention of it. So that's another factor that entered into the problem teaching advanced autorotations in the MD-500 at Western Helicopters, Rialto. Again, I take full responsibility. I should have checked the maintenance manual. I should not have flown the aircraft on that particular day. I made a mistake. Thank you for listening to me. It was one of these things where I had said something to him. He's from the factory. He's one of the booth guys, dressed beautifully, one of the booth guys. And he looked down, and if he'd had a table right in front of him, he would have pounded it.